Hello and welcome to another episode of SoFly. It is middle of July, actually, which is kind of wild. I can't believe it's already middle of July. And we're back here recording another episode. We got episode 123, is it right now?
Yeah, man.
Pretty wild. We've got myself, Mitch, and of course we've got Aldo.
Hey, everyone.
We don't have Yilma today. Yilma's busy at work doing his little freelance stuff, so he's not on the show. But we are joined by a very special guest. We've got Dr. Ross Boucek on the show. Dr. Ross is the Keys Initiative Manager for the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. Ross grew up in southwest Florida fishing for snook and tarpon on waters where he continues to fish to this day. He received his master's and doctoral degrees at Florida International University, where his research investigated how and in what ways Everglades restoration actions will impact snook in the Everglades National Park. After he received his PhD, he worked for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission as a senior biologist, researching animal migrations and where harvest regulation boundaries should be. He works with anglers, guides, fellow scientists, and other stakeholders to make sure that the necessary research is completed and that this research is effectively applied to improve fishery management and ensure the long-term conservation of the Keys. But today he's on SoFly. Dr. Ross, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a really awesome opportunity.
Yeah, no, we're super stoked to be chatting. I mean, like we were connected through Costa and really excited to get to chat because you're doing a lot of cool stuff down there, especially with the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. And definitely want to just dive into all that today.
Yeah, I think for sure. We've obviously been reading about the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. I've fished Florida. I've been lucky enough to fish Florida a bunch of times. We've been saltwater fishing more and more every year. Obviously not during the COVID years, but we've started to learn a little bit about those environments a little bit more. So it'd be cool to actually talk to somebody that works in those environments. And we're going to be talking about the Bonefish Tarpon Trust and also a new film that Costa helped put together, which is The Path to Permit, which is streaming now on YouTube, and we'll put it all in the show notes. But yeah, Ross, thanks for joining us. It's awesome.
Whereabouts you calling in from today?
I'm down in Marathon, Florida. It's about 92 degrees in the shade, not to quote the movie, but
nice. Awesome. I love it. Yeah, it's pretty beautiful down there, eh?
Yeah, you missed it today. There was pretty exciting stuff. There was a charity that they jump stuff in cars and donate the proceeds to whoever. But this guy, I happened to be leaving my sailboat to come to do this, and all of a sudden I see a car fly over a bridge, and it was it was pretty cool.
That's amazing. I love that. Florida, like a lot of crazy stuff going on down there, eh? That's awesome. Okay, well, very cool. I love that. How's the fishing been lately?
Wait a minute. Do you live on a sailboat?
I do, yeah.
Oh, wait. You live on a sailboat?
Only way to live in the Keys.
Oh my God,
man.
that's amazing.
That's true, actually.
So that's like a popular thing down there? People in the Keys just all living on sailboats?
Yeah, a lot of us do. It's a hard, you get used to life pretty easy, but the Bahamas are right next to us. Cuba's 90 miles south, and Mexico is a couple days sail.
Right.
So it's a really, if you like sailing, the winds are always blowing here, and there's tons of cool little pockets to go check out. And
wow, that's dope.
Yeah, I can anchor the sailboat.
So where are you right now? Like, did you just come into shore and find like somebody with internet?
No, I'm in my office right now.
Okay, right on. I love it. Sailboat life. That's crazy. That's so cool.
That is very cool.
So you're a fly angler, of course. How's the fishing been?
Oh my gosh, this is my favorite month, and it's finally getting right. We were out 2 weeks ago. And stumbled upon a bunch of tail and permit and a bunch of tail and bonefish, and it was one of those days where the weather was awful, and we just kept trying new areas because that's the only place that didn't have a giant thunderstorm sitting right on top of it, and so we learned some cool stuff.
Wow.
It was pretty exciting, and tomorrow we'll be back out at sunset trying to replicate magic, and yeah.
Oh wow, that's dope. Do you ever have like mornings where you just wake up, grab a cup of coffee, and just go cast off your sailboat right off the bat?
I do, yeah. It's the harbor I'm in just piles up with big tarpon. So I've woken up. I've had them wake me up because they try to eat mullet that are hiding behind my boat, and all of a sudden it sounds like a cannonball hits you on the side, and you wake up and you go out and there's a tarpon rolling right by. But
Although, what are we
man.
doing? Like,
I
where are
don't
we
know,
living all
man.
day? Like, we live in
I
like
don't
little
know.
apartments in the city. Like, what the hell's going on?
I don't know. I think we'd say that we got the pleasure of fishing the Bahamas for the first time this year, and Mitch and I got there. We took one look at the ocean, and Mitch is like, "Why do we live in Toronto exactly?"
Where there's snow, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
What's that about? I love it.
yeah, I listened to that podcast.
Okay, well-
So you were in those salt ponds. Did I catch that right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in Long Island. Yeah, that was pretty cool. The old salt.
So
Yeah, I guess the old processing ponds for salt.
Yeah.
And but the operation had been defunct, and it's been reclaimed by Bonefish, basically, and a few
So
stray
cool.
barracuda. But really, without being a scientist or knowing anything of the area, really, it appeared to be a nursery because the bonefish weren't. The biggest one was probably maybe like a 2-pounder kind of thing. But there was no sharks. There was nothing else except for a couple birds and just a ton of shrimp. So.
And pretty easy to sight them, like to see the tails and whatnot. 'Cause
huge
It's just like a
schools.
big pond, right? Like it's
Huge schools,
Yeah, really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
which was really
Jealous.
cool.
I've always
Yeah.
wanted to go there.
Oh yeah, take
Oh,
the
yeah.
sailboat. There's a lot of sailboats going through there. I was like, damn, that's super. That looks super fun. Really cool.
It does look super fun. Yeah. So I guess Mitch, what do you want to do? You want to start reel back? Actually, before we get into your life, maybe just quickly off the top, if people haven't heard, what is the Bonefish Tarpon Trust?
Yeah, I know. We're a really cool organization. We're a science-based nonprofit organization with a mission to conserve and restore populations of bonefish, permit, and tarpon in their habitats, primarily in Florida and the southeast U.S., but we also have extension offices and long-term conservation programs in Bahamas, Belize, and Mexico. We work collaboratively with Cuban researchers, and we've also done projects in Puerto Rico and other things that really help conserve the greater Caribbean bonefish and permit and tarpon fisheries, which are worth a ton of money. So,
Yeah, from like a tourism standpoint.
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, in the Keys, our flats fishery generates about $500 million a year in economic impact, and the
Wow.
Bahamas, it's just shy of $200 million a year just for bonefish, and then and Belize and Mexico, it's in the order of 50 to 80 million. So yeah, I mean, wherever these fisheries exist, they're just money generators, if they're healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I went to Florida was 2015, 16, and I was actually in Marathon. A friend of mine, his parents lived there. And when you get there, it's kind of the same when you first go to Montana or where we just went, Lake Placid. It is a fly fishing place. There's flats boats everywhere, and forget about even fly fishing. It's a fishing place. Everyone's on the ocean, recreating and catching fish. So it doesn't surprise me that it's $500 million, but that's still wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. No, that's cool. Okay, well, we'll get more into kind of the Bonefish Trust and Tarpon Trust, but before we get into that, and of course the film and the research you're doing, let's go way back to like when you started fly fishing. How'd you get into fly fishing, and what was it about fly fishing that kind of hooked you?
That's a good question. My parents, grandparents, they're all been here for a million years, and they've raised in Miami, and they started snook fishing in Everglades National Park. And so I was introduced to really fishing back then when I was like 5 or 6. I have this memory driving into the woods, being terrified, at 4 years old, and seeing a shark eat something, and then I caught I caught a bass and a snook in the same stretch of river, and I thought it was just the coolest thing ever.
That's cool. Yeah.
So I really grew up plug fishing for snook. Really, that was kind of all I did. And I did a lot of fly fishing too for snook on beaches, which is very similar to bone fishing in some regard, where it's white sand. You see them come in, you throw a little streamer at them, and they just crush it.
Yeah.
But I really didn't get into like the big fly fishing, until I moved to Miami about 10 years ago. For grad school, and there was opportunities to fly fish for bonefish off beaches and other places like that. But now living in the Keys, it's just so awesome. I mean, the flats that I have in my backyard are 4 seconds away from the boat ramp, and I could be in. So you just have to do it, and you have to get obsessed with it. And that's kind of really where it really took off for me. Is once I moved down here, then I was all in. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
I
the
think-
life. It's like so part of the lifestyle, right? Like ingrained and just kind of the way of life.
Yeah, I think my spinning rods have
That's super cool.
cockroaches coming out of them now, and
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So, did fishing then inspire your kind of drive into this world of marine research?
oh, absolutely, yeah. That's I knew I wanted to be in this industry, I guess. I went to college first at Virginia Tech to be an ocean engineer, and I had this ambition
cool.
of designing flats boats. Was kind of my
be
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And I mean, that's just like such a niche industry, though. You can't like get a degree in flats
Yeah.
boats. You can get a degree in like
Yeah.
building oil rigs and like missiles for submarines, but like the flats boat specialty wasn't there. So I kind of went to in the middle of my college career. I kind of went to this like inflection point. I'm like, this isn't working out. I'm living in a very cold place. Never seen snow before till I got there, and I was kind of sick of that.
Yeah.
So I worked in a tackle shop this summer, and I was like, man, I should just become like a snook guide and just take people plug fishing. And I gave college like one more shot, and I enrolled in whatever looked like the program that would offer for me like opportunities to fish more. And it was fishery science, knowing nothing about any of it. I just saw fisheries, and I was like, all right, yeah. This was my last this was my last semester in college. Pull the trigger, see how it goes. And loved it. Loved every second of it. Aced all my classes from there on out, and then that was kind of the path.
Boom. I love it. So where'd you go when you graduated? Like, did you come right to the Bonefish Tarpon Trust, or did you have some stuff in between? Or
I had this wonderful opportunity to actually study snook in the place I grew up fishing for them.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, I know, right? Like I just like was not turning not letting that job get out of my hands.
That's cool.
And, so I did my master's, kind of studying snook diets, what they ate, which was also super cool.
oh wow.
And then that transitioned to a PhD research of looking at the broader things that cause, with snook and like how freshwater changes their behaviors, their spawning rhythms, and all this other stuff that can really feed into these big Everglades restoration projects that we have going on in South Florida. So it was really fulfilling, really cool work, and really lucky to have that opportunity to study in the river system that I caught my first snook in. So that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's
That's
been very
so cool.
rewarding.
Yeah, like dive deep into this fish. Like what do snook eat? By the
Whatever
way?
you throw in front of them, it's big. It's big. Oh yeah, I
Anything,
thought
yeah.
I was gonna crack the code on something, but no, just whatever is most abundant and available and easy to catch. But one thing we did learn is don't tell anybody this, but they really like this. We have this invasive species called a Mayan Cichlid that's like bright pink, and snook just kill. They just love them, like they're the best eradicator of the Mayan cichlids, and which is great,
So can we keep that in the podcast?
Oh yeah,
or
yeah.
can we,
Totally.
do we
That's
edit
good,
that out?
Yeah, that's like super common
Is
knowledge.
I love it. Yeah.
Is a cichlid the same as the? I'm kind of remembering back to some of our Texas podcasts. Would that be the same as the Guadalupe bass? Like it's a cichlid strain? Anyway, that's something for the show notes.
No, I get you. No, they're different. I forget what the
Yeah.
Guadalupe bass look like. These are just like bright pink. They're very very pretty.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And the snook just go wild for them.
yeah, just snook just everything loves them. But they're so resilient. These things the reason why they're such a good invader is just because they can handle this abuse and be left in a fish tank for 6 months with no water, kind of thing. So
Jesus.
not that much, but yeah.
Wow.
But still,
They're pretty
they're
hardcore.
very-
That's crazy. So there seems to be a lot of stuff like that in Florida, and that's just from the outside. I'm up here in Canada. I'm like, that's kind of my knowledge of Florida. Is it's like these resilient creatures of, like invasion.
Yeah, my friend, he's an outdoor photographer, and he just did like a whole series of like documenting these invasive species that are actually super fun to fish for. Like swimming in like abandoned cars and canals and like shopping carts, like hiding under diapers as they drift by.
Yeah. It's a wild, eh?
Yeah, it was super wild. So then, when did you get to the? So after that, was it to the Bonefish Tarpon Trust?
Yeah, like when I was in college, I mean, when I was doing my grad school, like all I wanted to do was be a professor, and like that was it. Like that was nothing is short of that is what I'm gonna do. So I was doing all the steps. So the next step was to get agency experience. So I took a job with an agency that did
Hmm.
research. And then it's like out of the blue, the Bonefish Tarpon Trust, my science director called me up, and I did an internship with him like 12 years before I start, at this time. And he called me up. He's like, I have this job for you. I don't know if you're going to be interested in it because I know it's like big deviation from what you want to do. But he's like, you're going to be living in the Keys and like probably doing a lot of fishing, um, studying bonefish and permit and tarpon. Like, I know it's different. He's like really reserved about it. And I was like, let me think about that. And 2 days later,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, sign me up, dude. Heck yeah. Like, abandoned all
yeah.
dreams of whatever I had before that.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a pretty good job description. I mean, how the hell
I
did you say
know,
no to
right?
something like that? Yeah. You're gonna be fishing a lot, spend your time in the Keys, and just research tarpon
Yeah,
and bonefish.
It's like all your grant money's taken.
How do we
care of.
research them? Oh, we got to catch them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of touched on something about like 12 years ago or whatever. This brought up a question. How long has the trust been around? How long has BTT been around?
Yeah, this is our 25th anniversary is this year.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
And
That's
it's tremendous
awesome.
to watch us how we've grown, particularly in the last about 8 years, and more staff, more research potential, and more conservation wins like the permit protections at Western Dry Rocks and all sorts of other tarpon regulations that we've done recently. So it's cool to see science like go somewhere. A lot of people do science and that's where it dies, but here it always
Right.
we always make it attach it to a policy, or make it maximize its potential and making the world a better place, I guess.
That's,
yeah. There's an outcome. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, like an actionable item. Yeah, which is great. Well, that's cool. Certainly recently you definitely see BTT come up, and whether it be Instagram or YouTube or whatever, even colloquially, like you kind of always see the name around, in the, like you said, the past 5 to 8 years seems to really have gained a lot of notoriety, which is great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, why don't we just switch and talk a little bit about the film now? Pathway to Permit. What is the film all about for people who haven't seen it yet?
Yeah. The long story long, it's about 12, 14 years ago. Fishing guides. Well, first, even further back, for those who don't know, permit is a awesome fish, tropical. I'm going to boast and say it's the hardest fish in the world to catch on fly. And in the Keys, those are permit in a lot of places. In the Keys, we have a trophy permit fishery. Most of the IGFA world records are from the Florida Keys or Biscayne Bay. Not only are they big, but they're super, super technical, super hard to catch. So it's this fishery that a lot of people say that once you've done everything else, you all of a sudden you try permit fishing. And in the Keys, especially in Key West, it's really a cult following. Like, you can find, if you go to the main boat ramp, there's chances are that the guide and his client both have permit tattoos somewhere on their body. And it's just like that kind of culture. It's this rabid obsession with fish that no one can catch. And, anyways, so about 10 to 12, over a decade ago, fishing guides and anglers started to notice that the number of permit they were seeing on the flats was declining, and the average size of the fish was getting smaller and smaller. And the latter is kind of the bigger issue, because we boast this trophy fish mentality here. So the guides came to us and says, hey, can we do some research? Like, something's going on with our fishery. We got to figure out what it is, and we got to fix it. So at that time, permit outside of this little obsessive community in Key West and the greater Keys was more or less an unregulated food fish. And where people would target them would be at their spawning aggregation sites as kind of like a novelty fishery, where you could, though they're so hard to catch in the flats, you go to their spawning aggregation sites and you catch 12 in a half day. And at that time, there was about every other one of those fish that were being caught were being harvested. And so it seemed really like a fishery issue, where either was overharvest or something else was really going on, judging by the structure of the decline. If you looked at it like a doctor looks at things, and you see the description of the symptoms, Like, yeah, there's a fishery issue here that we need to look at. So right off the bat, we partnered with a few guides associations, or the Lower Keys Guides Association in particular, and we approached our state fisheries agency, FWC, to see to tell them about the problem that we have this unregulated fishery that means a lot to people in Key West and in the Lower Keys. And can we put some proactive fisheries regulations on here? You know, we don't have any data yet to say anything else, but like, come on, this is like worth a lot of money. These guys catch like 40 a year each. Like, they're not, you know, they're throwing them all back. So FWC, our state agency, more or less said, okay, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to make a special permit zone within the Florida Keys, just bracketing the Keys. Permit occur across all across Florida. So it's a statewide fishery, but the flats fishery is just essentially the Florida Keys. So like, all right, you Keys guys are going to shut up now. We're going to give you your special permit zone. We're going to tighten regulations. You know, we're going to drop down harvest from 10 per person per day, or whatever outrageous number it was, down to two per person. We're going to jack up the minimum size limit, and let us know if it works. And also, if you come back to us again with more complaints, you better have science to back up what you're saying.
Right.
So we're like, all right, cool. Thank you very much. It's really cool that you guys did that. You usually follow science, and I appreciate you kind of listening to us on this. So like 4 or 5 years later, things are still not getting better. So like, all right, let's attack this scientifically. What's going on? We have an unregulated harvest fishery happening outside this special permit zone that we just created. We have no idea if the permit and the Keys are going up there to spawn and just getting harvested, basically making the zone ineffective. We don't know what's going on our local spawning sites. Just about that time, sharks really started becoming a noticeable interactor with fishing. And saltwater fly fishing, or saltwater fishing in general, shark post-release predation and catch and release, and depredation is kind of becoming this more and more pervasive issue. And that what basically happening, even though it was catch and release for permits on their spawn in the Keys in the special permit zone, you know, we were getting these reports that these guys are like, you know, they're just feeding them to sharks more or less. And we're also getting reports that the fish were spawning earlier than the special permit zone kind of protected them. So in this special permit zone, I'm jumping around a lot. There was
no, it's okay.
We'll distill it down.
Cool. There was a closed harvest season from May to July, and then we were getting a lot of reports that this permit were spawning in March and April, not, you know, more April, not and May, June, and July anymore. That it had been knocked back for whatever reason. So even though we had this zone in place, there was still a lot of leaks, kind of thing, you know. So we were like, all right, let's invest in some studies. So we did a statewide mark recapture study. We handed out a bunch of tags to anglers, asked them to dart tag those fish, and then when you recapture them, let us know, and we'll tell you where it was originally tagged. And the idea was to see how much connectivity there was between the flats fisheries in the Keys and these unregulated harvest fisheries outside the Keys. And if there was really no connectivity, it doesn't, you know, it's outside mission. We don't really, it's not our place to say they can't kill them, kind of thing. So we ran this study, and the results came back, and basically every permit that was tagged outside the special permit zone was recaptured outside the special permit zone. And then every permit but one that was tagged within the special permit zone was recaptured inside the special permit zone. The only one that wasn't was a fish that was tagged right on the border of the zone. And I mean, it had to move like 20 feet and it had been outside the zone. So it was, it seemed like the zone, apart from maybe this top right border, was doing its job. You know, these fish aren't leaving it. So harvest outside this special permit zone was pretty good. So like that's ruling that out.
So that rule kind of made sense. Like that was a good system.
Yeah,
right.
Science backed it up. Looks great. So we're like, all right, what's happening inside the Keys? Now we know that they're probably spawning in April, we're hearing, and people are harvesting them in April. We got this shark depredation issue still going on. So what can we do there? So what we did next is we funded this big tracking study where we tagged up 150 permit on the flats, and then try to follow them to see where they would go spawn, when they would spawn, and were there particular hot spawning spots that were really exclusive for the flats permit.
Yeah.
So what we found, confirming angler reports, is yes, the spawning season had shifted to April. So the peak spawn is now April, not May, not June, not July, where it's basically unregulated harvest. So we approached our state agency, and they're like, all right, yeah, this is great. Yeah, we see it. Let's add April to the closed harvest season, and they did it. So they did that within 2 months. Yeah,
They did.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
know, right? Like, go government, man. Like, it's pretty sick.
Yeah. I can't say we're too used to that in Ontario.
Yeah, you know, like you come up against the red tape so often.
Yeah.
Like even when science is there, and it's like great to see that it actually paid
Yeah.
off.
Sorry, just a quick question going back to the I'm just curious. Seems interesting. Is that a water temperature thing that they're spawning earlier, or it's just too hot for them to spawn in May and June? Or
Yeah, it's a water temperature thing. It's water temperature, lunar phase interaction. Full moons has to be above X degrees, and that's happening earlier. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. But yeah, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, it is pretty cool that you were able to, and pretty quickly as well. Like you said, they turned that around in like 2 months.
Yeah. Like right around. Like they sent them the data, and then like 2 months later they had the meeting about it to vote on it. And 2 months after that, it was done. So
Awesome.
Pretty.
That's awesome.
So how long has that been in effect for now, and has the fishery seen a positive change?
So that came in effect 2018. So the first year we would have noticed anything would have been last year. It takes about 3 years for a successful spawn to kind of roll into the adult fishery that we have.
Yeah.
And there was the fishery didn't jump up like it should have. So there was clearly probably something else going on. So which led us to our next research line. So now that we buttoned up these 2 leaks, or we confirmed one leak wasn't really a leak, and this other one now is buttoned up, we went on to the next thing, and that is to address potential interactions with sharks and permit that were spawning. And so what we did, we again used leverage the tracking data, and we followed them to the various different places they go when they try to spawn. And one place in particular, I mean, permit do spawn in several locations, don't get me wrong, but one place in particular attracted 71% of the fish that we tagged on the flats.
Wow.
Yeah, just like
very significant.
Yeah. There's permit spawning in other places, but I mean, come on, this is the meat right here.
Yeah.
And of course, there was a reason behind why they were spawning there, and it was because it's a multi-species spawning aggregation site. It's this little rock pinnacle called Western Dry Rocks, and there's a little eddy that forms right off it. So anything that spawns in that eddy just gets swept like right back into the keys. And not only do permits spawn there, mutton snapper spawn there, gag group or black grouper, like there's like a million awesome species that spawn there.
So if something happened to that spot, then it would be pretty bad.
Yeah. Like 20 years of serial overfishing, like you wonder why our fishery is not as good as it used to be.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's
the science. Totally.
And
go ahead.
Am I right in saying that when permit, or am I kind of close in saying that when permit spawn, when a permit hatches, it's not a little fish. It's almost like plankton, and it's like subjected to like ocean currents as to where they end up.
Yeah,
is that kind
that's totally right.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so they
so they spawn there, and then you were saying that eddy pushes them right back into the keys, and that's why they live there.
Yeah. So they spawn in these big aggregations. Like males release their seed, females release their eggs. They just mix in this soup, and then about 15 days later, wherever the ocean currents take it is where that's its home now.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's
You just
crazy.
float through space like as an just,
Yeah,
You're
like
a
what
permit.
am I right
And
now?
the keys.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
That's wild.
So we discovered that this is like the spot for the permit, and not only is
Yeah.
it the spot, but it has all these reasons why you got to keep it going because it's seeding the entire keys with this eddy.
Yeah.
But the problem is because it's this multi-species spawning site, there's basically a year-round fishery for something that's aggregating there, and it's a half.
Right.
It's a you can make a half-day charter just going there, so you can run 2 charters a day by just going there, and so
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of people that do that,
Mhm.
and yeah, so it's been basically been overfished for way too long, and permit. Yeah.
Jeez, like I feel like you just everybody, let's maybe just band together on this one and like not fish there ever again, because like then the fishery would be crazy, like.
And like just think how good the year. I mean, even if without the recruitment benefit or the with bringing more larvae in, if you just like not kill all the awesome spawning fish in like 1-2 week period, like imagine how great the fishery is going to be for the rest of the 50 weeks.
Yeah. So is that kind of what's happening right now? Like, are you trying to make that happen, or is it sort of an impossible fight?
It was an impossible fight, but we managed to pull it off. So yeah, that was kind of we identified this site, and then like, all right, a lot of people that fish out there say like if you hook a permit, it basically gets eaten by a shark, and you have to like hook about some people said you have to hook 24 permit to get one to the boat, pass the sharks. Other people were throwing outrageous numbers out, like it's basically a firing squad for these fish. And other people were saying like, no, it's fine, you never lose a single one to sharks.
Yeah.
So given the uncertainty and the potential management applications, we funded 2 studies to basically go out there and fish for these permit and put some numbers on how many fish were actually getting eaten out there. And so we did 2 studies, 2 independent labs, one in University of Massachusetts and the other one at Florida International University. And like one was in 2018, the other was in 2019. And they both came up with like virtually the same exact number, that somewhere between 35% and 39% of the fish you hook out there basically become shark food.
Oh wow, almost
yeah,
half.
Yeah.
That's quite high.
Yeah, dude. Like spawn. Not only it's like the biggest fish, it's the spawning fish, and like super high super high fishing pressure, super high catch rates. Like the recipe for the worst thing you could ever do for a fishery, and like it's like disgusting. Like you guys are so lucky in the freshwater world. Like people at least don't do that to the extent that people, like I guess they do. Do they?
Depends what it is, I guess, right? But yeah, I know what you mean.
We do have some problematic rivers in our area, let's just say, without getting into it too much. I mean, there's that film in the 70s. Was it the 70s? Like just Tarpon. Yeah. The title was just Tarpon. Yeah. And there's that, I think I have to imagine it was intentional art direction or editing to like, one scene you've got the guys on this like serene flats boat, Jimmy Buffett music playing. Literally it's he did the score. And then the next scene is, this chaotic tourist trawler boat with like all these people almost like kind of like, like Looney Tunes, like Daffy Duck and all of them like leaning over the edge of a or like Pinocchio when the tunas come into the whale. And they're just pulling up fish after fish after fish. And a lot of them, I was surprised when I first watched that movie they were permit. And then there's this scene, the kind of morbid scene afterwards where they put all the big trophy fish, they skewer them on a big board. Like, look what this boat caught today. And they're just putting like satellite dish sized permit on this. And I'm just like, wow, they're deep sea fishing, and I had always associated a permit, or offshore fishing, I guess I should say, and I always associated with being a flat species. But I wonder if they were around where this was.
Yeah, they 100% were. Like that boat still runs out to that area. Like,
right.
Oh yeah.
But no, it's so funny you mentioned that. It's awesome that you've seen that film, but I just like in the opening scene, they have the lady with like the neck brace that's like, like coming up on the boat. And
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
they did such a good job being like, see what fishing can be and like see what it is. Kind of, I think that was their maybe
Right.
intentional or unintentional commentary, but you know, if that's happening every day, it's pretty easy to see why, you know, a fish
Why would degrade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's, it's just it's you go out there and just like, God, it's like someone on the flats thinks about that fish that just died, just got eaten by a shark like every day, like, and it's just and not only the economic,
And that's even with fly fishing too, right? Like, was it the same? Like, fly catching it on the fly and releasing the fish has 35% chance of
oh no
getting eaten by a shark. That's not.
yeah,
fly
so
fishing,
we did the first study, kind of looked at a geographic approach to it. Where is depredation bad, where is it not? And the flats, I don't, if they lost 1 out of 50 to a shark. So it exists, but you got if you catch 50 permit, you're pretty awesome,
right?
I guess. But they're fishing with crabs and live bait, and it's much easier. And there was other wrecks there was other places that were worse. There's some wrecks in the Gulf where resident fish live, and it's close to 90%. Like, it's just, you hook one, it's just instant blood pool. But
oh wow,
jeez, eh?
So yeah.
Wow. Okay, so now eastern
Western dry rocks.
Yeah. Western dry rocks. So now it's kind of a protected zone.
Yeah. So we got these data back,
cool.
And then there was like an insane amount of controversy about this. Like, we joined together with a bunch of different nonprofits to kind of advocate for this in all channels. The main partner was the Lower Keys Guides Association, and I mean, just to give you an example, a few of the guides kind of really stuck their necks out on this issue. We did a whole social media campaign, and it was really clever in some senses, but had some consequences. And this is being one of them. That some of these guides that were really sticking up for us in this campaign, like they woke up one morning and they had a dead permit on their doorstep, or a dead permit on their daughter's swing set, like just weird stuff. Like, I mean, just fishing, man.
Permit mafia.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, and they attached me to be like the guy who was responsible for all of this. I was getting some pretty nasty stuff sent my way, and some threats. And this is all during COVID. And I anchored my sailboat out, like, I don't know, I was like 4 or 5 miles away from this, or I was actually 10 or 12 miles away from the boat ramp, and I was literally just north of Western Dry Rocks. It was some of the best permit fishing ever. Anyways, I was starting to get some weird messages and comments sent my way. Like, I know you're on your boat. I know where your boat is. And like, I know. Weird. Like, I ran into Nathaniel Linville at the boat ramp, and he's like, "Well, you got a gun, don't you?" I'm like, my girlfriend's like, "He's got a spear gun." Like, straight up, like, oh, great. This is
done.
Love where this is going.
This is not going well.
Seriously. So we got super heated, and but anyways, after about a 1.5-year battle with the people that didn't want to see it closed, and the agencies did the right thing, and like they enacted a 4-month seasonal closure to prevent fishing there.
Awesome.
Yeah, and at that 4-month window, it was pretty optimal. Like, most everything kind of spawned between April and July, or whatever 4 months is past April. I think it's July. Yeah. And that covered like the fisheries everyone was really concerned about, and our most popular fisheries. Well, at the same time, it really allowed access to. There are some sustainable fishing that does go on there for sailfish and wahoo and marlin and stuff, and that's all kind of winter spring. So this was really felt like it hit the sweet spot in terms of protecting the spawning fish, and still allowing people that do cool stuff to do cool stuff. And so it was good. It was good on the back end of it now, or if you count COVID as a year, I mean, as like a closure year, which is reasonable. So we're approaching kind of the 3rd year of this. So if we really see an uptick next year, we know it's good. But yeah,
That's exciting. That's super exciting. Like just
Yeah.
waiting for that, to come back.
So, I mean, in the film, you'll see if you watch it, which I think everybody should. It's also not that long, so it's not like a 3-hour endeavor. It's 15 minutes or something.
yeah, it's probably shorter than everything I just said for sure.
Yeah, narrated by Flip Hallett, one and only. Ross, you're in it. You look good, by the way. Looking good. But there's scenes with tracking and aggregating data and whatnot. Is that a constant thing? Like, are you still tagging? Are you still actively tagging permit to see the efficacy of the program? Is that just something that never stops, or I guess where are you in your research?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Because how contentious this management action was, we weren't the only ones. The FWC, our state agencies, really put this as they call it a provisional closure. So it's more of like a trial. Like they've never closed anything
Right.
so close to mainland. Everything else is usually 200 miles in the middle of nowhere that like 4 commercial guys fish. So
Right.
this is so novel and such a progressive step for our state agency to do. So they're like taking this very seriously. So they're reviewing it every 3, 5, and 7 years. So we're continuing to do our tracking work, which is through Carleton University, which I believe is close to you guys. Yeah.
What?
That's
crazy.
What?
That's where I have my degree
Good
That's
man, scholar.
from. That's awesome.
That's so weird. We're both from we're both. I mean, we
We're
live
both
in
from
Toronto
Ottawa.
now, but we were both from Ottawa.
Oh, awesome.
Wow, that's
That's awesome.
a really interesting Canadian connection.
Yeah,
Carleton
yeah. I got some
University.
smart guys up there. Yeah.
Great school. Yeah, great school.
And so they're going to continue the work for another 2 years, and these tags last for 5 years, so they're going to be tagging for 2 more years.
Oh, cool.
And it'll be idea to see if the permit or you staying there longer, more likely to revisit, all these kind of indicators that early indicators that something good is happening. And we're following that up with another study with kind of more of like, I'm going to say a hook and bullet lab, but like a fisheries lab that does aggregation work and has all these really high tech sonars that can actually count how many permit are there, so we can see how many are, if the aggregation is getting bigger. And they did this earlier before it closed, and also the fish getting bigger within the aggregation, which is really the kind of the big win if we start getting our trophy fish back.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, the fishing is still really cool in the Keys, but like, yeah,
for sure.
yeah, but it could always be cooler, and it was a lot cooler. So,
Yeah, try to get back to that point for sure.
or stabilize
Why not?
it at least.
Yeah,
Of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stabilize it.
Yeah, and then work from there. Yeah, because I was, it was funny when we were in the Bahamas. We didn't run into a permit or weren't expecting to, either. But I only learned that after I got there. I just kind of thought they were everywhere. So it was a cool moment in the film where you see they show the tracking data or whatever. They don't move that far, really. I mean, they swim a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, they just stay in the Keys. They're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, we've been to Tobago, which is actually where Yilma's from, and encountered lots of permit there. And my question, just out of the blue, was always I wonder if they stay here, or do they live here? Do they go, up to Cuba? What are they doing? What are they doing? Are they more like tarpon? Or yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Because tarpon move far, right? Like they travel quite a distance.
Yeah. They go all the way up to I guess New York now. But I mean, every year climate change is pushing them, another latitude up
Further.
which is interesting to see what the repercussions of that going to be for us at the southernmost latitude of their migration range.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it does make, I don't know how many more years until you can get a tarpon in the morning and then go get a bluefin tuna in the afternoon. That's pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty wild, eh?
That is pretty wild.
And a couple more years we'll have them up in Nova
there you
Scotia.
go.
So there's.
Go easy on our fish.
Just start roping tarpon off the coast of Nova Scotia. That'd be crazy.
Can you imagine swinging for tarpon? Yeah.
Is it kind of safe to say? Maybe not safe to. I don't know. Is permit kind of number 3 down in the Keys in a weird way. You always hear about tarpon or even bonefish. I mean, heck, it's in the name, Bonefish Tarpon Trust. But you do, permit research. You think there's more attention now than maybe beforehand on Keys permits, or were they always popular, or were you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The permit fishery there was the history of it had like two components. One, we lost our bonefish fishery completely, so bonefish guides needed something else to catch, and at the same time that fishery was kind of showing signs of trouble. Del Brown, Tommy Robinson, and a few other guys found a way to catch them on fly. So the kind of innovation coupled with a loss of the other fishery got the popularity going. But now, in the lower Keys, like, you're a permit guide and you fish tarpon, like that's what you do. So,
right. It's a pretty serious thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's cool. Our bonefish are coming back, man.
That was going to be my next question. Like,
I didn't know they were gone. I know. I was like, wait, the bonefish fishery got wiped
Yeah,
out?
it was a slow progressive decline till about 2010. Then we had a big freeze event that knocked them back. But like in 2015, all of a sudden we have like 1 million small bonefish. And we've had 7 years of good recruitment. And damn, fishery is a lot of fun. They're small, but they're getting bigger. So
that's great.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah.
Oh man, we gotta have you back on and just do a bonefish
I
show.
love it. That's
I know we're focused on permit because of the film and everything, and because permit are so special. But yeah, that's like a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, the good thing about bonefish is you can like go out and actually catch one. You don't just go out and just be shut down.
Hell yeah.
Now is permit like that just because they are such a selective hard fish to catch, or is it because the numbers are kind of small?
So. A lot of schools have thought on that. My favorite is one of my friends think they're just too dumb to recognize anything. So that's what he thinks.
Nice.
Yeah, they're just too picky. Like their eyes are proportionally bigger than most other fish's eyes, and you see them studying that fly. Like, and the second it does something wrong, like, now, I'm done with this.
See ya. Yeah. Great sense of smell as well.
Not like a bonefish. A bonefish is definitely the kind of a basset hound.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
And it's I know you guys don't do this, but I do a lot of chumming for research. It's a very effective way to get bonefish quickly, and especially on conventional tackle where I can just horse them in. But and it's actually really exciting when you put chum in the water and you see bonefish and just see them just like, yes, they're like so happy. And my girlfriend, she hates fly fishing, but she just loves chumming for bonefish as long as nobody fishes for them.
Yeah. Just to see them. Yeah, that's cool.
Actually, that probably is probably.
Oh,
cool. Do you chum on you chum the flats, and it's just all of a sudden there's just like.
Oh yeah. You just see them just like.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
That's so cool just to see them. Yeah, like you don't even need to fish for
it.
It
is. Yeah, you just bring a couple beers and just throw some shrimp in the water, and they're just like, oh, here they come. Give another shrimp.
Cool.
They've been good bonefish,
Yeah, it's like feeding geese. Yeah, exactly, with the bread.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, like I fished for permit a couple times, and I've hooked a few, have not landed them, yeah, well, but it was funny. The last time we were in Florida, we were actually maybe we can bleep this out, but we were in Boca Grande, and we're there for tarpon, and our guide was a buddy of somebody on the trip. He was showing me pictures, just flipping through, and then all of a sudden he's just showing pictures of permit after permit after permit, and he was a conventional angling guide, a gear guide, and but we were like, he was a friend of a friend, and he's like yeah, we'll go on my boat, it'll be great, kind of thing. And we weren't finding tarpon, and I was like where'd you catch, like, where are you getting those permit? And he's like, oh, and we went into like a bay, and there was this school of like 100 permit in like 6 to 8 feet of water, and they're just my buddy Nick was like, well, you go on. I know you're obsessed with permits, sort of. Why don't you go on the bow and cast? I'm getting to a point.
Yeah. No, I'm on the edge of my seat.
And
Man. I love it.
and I'm on the bow, and it's like I'm like pumping casts into this school, and every cast, 4 or 5 fish come up, and they look at it, and they're looking at it, and then they're like eh. And I'm like, every 2 casts, I'm like changing the fly, and it's like a 70-foot cast into the wind every time. I'm just pumping, and I'm not in a flats boat. We're in like a center con. The waves are going crazy, and I'm like, after an hour and a half, I'm like, I can't. I'm not gonna catch one. Nick puts a crab on the spinning rod. First cast is just like boom, hooked up. I was like, fuck! I was like, but I mean, obviously, it's live bait, so sure. But maybe there's something to your buddy's point that they are just so dumb they don't know any better. They're like, is that a fake? I don't know what that is. But then when they see, smell, and feel the real thing, they're like, okay, cool. But that was just so cool. I had, I wasn't expecting to see. It was kind of like an interesting, like, lesson in permit behavior, because I could see them like look at the fly. Because every other time I've encountered one was either in Tobago with Yilma, where we hooked a few and lost them. But those were like solo or like in 2 pairs on the flats. This was like a group of a lot of them, And it was just cool watching them all interact with each other. After a while, we just kind of ate lunch and watched them swim around. This is awesome.
Super cool. So the Tobago fishery, congrats. A permit are hard anywhere for sure. But that's awesome. Get hooking 2, killer, man. Jealous.
Yeah, we after a week we were in Tobago, actually, just as the world was crumbling with COVID, and by the end of the week we actually hooked a few, but we were seeing tons. We were there in March, 2019, and yeah, we, again, I don't know that much about saltwater fishing, but I mean, it seemed like we were seeing a lot of them. Like we were seeing 10 to 15 fish every day, and in not a very large area. Like in Tobago, it's like it's not a big flat, and we're going to the same flat every day because there's only like 2. and yeah, so that was pretty cool. So yeah, permit, everybody.
Yeah, I keep hearing about these fish, man. I gotta try it in my hand at a permit.
They're just so cool looking.
They're so cool
when we brought
looking.
the one in Florida to the boat, and I was actually holding it for the first time, I was just like, we were both, Nick and I were both like, whoa, because it's like, it's just so cool. It'd be great to be. I would love to do the tagging. It would be so much fun.
Yeah. If you guys are down in the Keys, man, at least I can show you some. I mean, you can try casting at them. I don't know if I can't promise a fish, but no, they're just so cool. Just the way they tail. I mean, a 20-pound fish sticks his whole tail out of the water, and just there's something magic about them.
Yeah, totally. The tagging program is really interesting. Like, how have you found, like, do you guys find you have a ton of fish tagged, and like, as time goes on, do you really notice like numbers of these things? Like, I'm just so interested in the tagging and like following these things along. Like, it's so cool.
Oh, it is. It's really, really cool. Yeah. So I think our first batch of tags is expired. So there's still some life left in a few, but yeah, I mean,
yeah.
So a good example is an angler and a guide down here, Nathaniel Linville and John O'Hearn. They caught a permit that had a dart tag in it. And every fish we put a surgery with the acoustic transmitter in that we can follow has a dart tag, and I knew, because I had a hunch that it was one that we tagged with both the internal and the external. So he tagged it and caught it, or we tagged it like 4 years or 3 years before he caught it. And when he caught it, it was literally on the exact same white spot that we tagged it at. But when we looked at the tracking data, this thing had been like flying all around the Keys, and like for the odds of this thing to like be caught again at the same spot,
that is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, what happens at this white spot? They just like lose their minds or something, like. Yeah.
That's so crazy. Yeah, what a coincidence. Like the timing lined up so well.
Where the crabs are the tastiest.
Yeah.
Our
Tasty crabs.
tasty crabs on that white spot. How much are you relying on? I'll just call them citizen scientists, like people in their boats. How many people? How do you get tags? Like, do you just go on your go on the website and be like, yeah, I'm on the water every day. Give me some
Give me
tags.
some tags.
Yeah, for the external tags, that's what we did. But we've since that got as much information as we could get out of it. There's no more sense in stabbing fish if you don't have to. For the internal tags, you need to have a scientist on boat. There's a bit of a technical bit because you have to do a surgery to put the tag inside them, then sew it up with sutures and stuff. And the tags cost a lot of money, so you want to make sure it's done perfectly and done right. So, but a lot of people have always offered to help, and those are always much appreciated because, like we've been talking about, these things are so freaking hard to catch. Like, you can't stick a bunch of nerds from Canada on a boat and expect them to catch 150.
Definitely not this nerd.
Definitely not.
So
no idea.
Is that primarily how you're getting the fish? Like, you're not netting these things. Like, you're not you're not dragging nets. You're literally having to catch them and tag them.
Yeah. So
that's a phenomenal amount of work.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's fun, but it's high stress.
Are you doing it
because if you don't catch anything, that's like, what'd you do today?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like your work day at that point, right? It's not just like a day out fishing. Yeah. I love it. Well, it's really cool. I mean, yeah, everybody check the film out. We're gonna put it in the show notes. It's such a crazy story, and it's exciting. I'm really excited to see the data that comes out next year. I mean, that's really cool. If it does, maybe there's gonna be a huge spike. It'll be like, whoa, that's.
There's a whole bunch of small permit now that just entered the fishery. That would be 2 to 3 years old. So I mean, with the extension in April. The COVID year, it's optimism,
Yeah.
And plugging up these leaks, I think, is making a big jump to speed up whatever recovery is happening. Yeah. So I thank you, for looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's amazing.
I just think it's cool too that you can be in a place that's so big, like the ocean. And I know you're inshore or whatever, but still, it's a large swath of water. And notice these things. You're like, oh, there's a bunch of new permit hanging around. You're like, okay, that's so cool that you've been there that long that you can kind of informally kind of understand that about your fishery.
Yeah, I wish those reports came from me. Those are a bunch of guides and anglers. Like, hey man, tons of permit around. I'm not seeing them. Where you fishing at?
Yeah.
I have to go do research.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I love it. Yeah. Okay, so we've got 5 more questions that we ask every guest in the show towards the end of the show, and we're going to ask you them now, and I'm really curious to know this first one is, what is your favorite fish and why?
God,
if you had to pick a favorite
many.
Fish.
Right now, I'm riding high on bonefish. I love them all. Permit and snook would be my next 2. But someone asked me this question, put a word to each of these fish, and I was like, the first one was tarpon.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to mind was just angry. Nobody's happy in tarpon season.
Yeah.
The fish, you're just angry at the fish. You're angry at the boat that just anchored in front of you. Angry at the wind that never stops blowing,
frustrating.
Permit is just suffering. It's just so much
to suffer fast
rejection and second guessing and why, if I had just one little more strip, you would ate, and bonefish is just pleasure, it's on you if you screw it up with a bonefish, but so
right, it's
so I'm loving bonefish right now, especially because it's getting good.
They are such happy little fish too.
Yeah, they're
they're just willing to eat. They're just they're kind of happy, joyful, and there's lots of them. It depends where you are, I suppose, but
I mean,
cool.
big run. They're all right, I'm done. Get the hook out.
Yeah.
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 You're like, well, if you were gonna give up that easy, did you have to run away so far?
Totally.
Yeah, but there's a few things that are I love wading shallow water flats for bonefish.
Nothing better in the world.
Yeah, that is
It's
nothing
so
better.
cool.
Nothing better.
So cool. Just got a siren here. 1 second. There's a fire going on there or something like that. I hope it's not mine.
Starts to,
Number 2 of Mitchy's Fishies 5. If you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's like the best time of year to go fish there and you're going to have an amazing time, where would you
go
go?
to the Keys.
And why?
I love it here. Yeah.
Yeah?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it sounds like you're pretty ingrained within the ecosystem there on a sailboat. And I mean, you've got, like Aldo was saying, you've got such a connection to the life and everything there. Yeah. What is about the Keys, like beyond all the stuff we've talked about that you love?
It's just so, I don't know. There's like different ways you can approach a fishery. They're like the one approach is travel. You get like the you just kind of skim the little bit of whatever you can see, or you can like live in it, just become immersed in it and just dig deep into the mechanics of it and really learn it. And I just like that I'm kind of at that phase now where I'm learning it and I can like kind of find fish every time I go now. And but it's just it's beautiful. I mean, we have these beautiful flats. Not to sound like an advertisement for the Keys, but like our fishing guide community, like there's no better guides, no more better professionals, no more work hard. You can do it. You can do it yourself. It's just, and we just so many options. It's just like there's permit.
Yeah.
They're big. There's bonefish. They're getting bigger, and there's tarpon. And if you want to get snapper, you just you find your snapper spot. You get dinner and just. I don't know. I love it. Everyone that's going to complain there's problems, but this is just, it's heaven to me, man. I don't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's just the thing. Like when that was the first place I had ever saltwater fly fished.
Man.
And like, you know, aside from, I didn't catch a bonefish, permit, or a tarpon the first time, but it blew my mind. I was catching jack and barracuda and snapper on the fly, and it was just like,
it's cool.
I remember so vividly, like the day we got there to my friend's house, and it was on the water, and his dad was like, "Hey, catch some snapper for dinner," and I thought that meant getting on a boat and going somewhere, and he just pitched a shrimp off the back deck, and within 5 minutes we had dinner, and I was like, "Okay, I get it." Like you could get why you
awesome.
never want to leave, because it's like the sun shines the whole time.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
The water's beautiful. And there's just like the Keys is just an interesting place. Like Key West, even in its like human history, American history is a really cool place. You got Hemingway, you've got everything that happened, and it's just such like what an interesting little like corner of the world. The Keys specifically.
Although I appreciate you seeing that and appreciating it. It's just I've lived in enough places to know where like I like and I don't like, and I like it here. And I think, there's a reason why we get so many people coming, because it's awesome, You guys should, Mitch, definitely get down here, man.
I gotta get down there. I've been wanting to for years now. It's I think it's my kind of place.
It's definitely your kind of place. And like the thing is, it's just easy. Well, Mitch loves rum cocktails, so Key West is great for that. Actually, everywhere in the Keys is. But like for people from Toronto, like, it's a 3-hour flight direct
to Key West.
Like,
it's so easy.
To Key West, or or Fort Lauderdale or Miami, and you can get down there really, really easily. Just saying.
We're doing it. I mean, hey, there might be some really good returns next year on those permits, so I think we should start planning a trip.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, number 3 of Mitch's Fishies 5 is, what is one of your best or favorite fishing memories?
When I actually caught my first permit on fly. It was super cool. It was almost a year to the day after like the Western Dry Rocks. It was like a year after kind of the Western Dry Rock stuff kind of settled down. And my girlfriend was featured on like Patagonia as one of their conservation people. She's really smarter than I am. Oh, nice. And so the photographer wanted us to go, who's a friend of ours, wanted to go to Key West to get a shot of her catching a bonefish over white sand. I'm like, great. Everybody's tarpon fishing. Cool. Piece of cake. The flats are going to be empty. No, we should. And it was supposed to be no wind. So it was supposed to be just like the perfect day. So we leave. The wind is now blowing 15 to 20 knots. And there's no tarpon around. So everybody that was tarpon fishing is now fishing in exactly the same places that I was expecting to have be empty. So I'm like, great. We start chumming to get one bonefish. for this and just call it a day and go to the bar. And then then these massive squalls start coming in. Like, awesome. This is just getting better and better. So we're hiding from this giant rainstorm, and just anchored behind this island. My friend Ian and I are just drinking. Like, this they've shot. And my girlfriend just sits there. She's like, hey guys, I don't want to disturb the fishing masters, but there's 2 permit right next to us. And we're like, both look down, and there's just 2 permit, like, trying to grab crabs off this piece of weeds that were going by. We're like, what? Wow. So my friend Ian grabs a rod, drops a fly. Permit jumps all over it, but he ended up dropping the fly line just out of, like, just sheer surprise. Oh yeah. So, like, oh wow, something may be happening. So anyways, it turned out to be my turn. After this happened, it repeated itself, and I see some fish, and I had 30 knots of wind behind me, so all I had to do was just kind of throw the fly line in the air and just point it in that direction. And I got, it was like a 90-foot cast, landed right in front of these 2 fish. I hook up into one, thinking it's my first permit. Turns out it was a big bonefish. Yeah. Awesome. So we got the photo for her and everything. So then we go to this next spot, and what was so cool about this is during COVID, I had my sailboat anchored right behind. I watched the sunset on this flat, or sunrise on this flat every day for 2.5 months, and we're like, let's pull it. There's an edge there, I think amazing. There may be something, and sure enough, we see this big permit coming right down the bank, and I drop the fly, and it just crushes it, and it was a nice fish. It was 15-20 pound fish. So it just not only was it a cool day in the sense, like not only was it a cool day in the sense that I got a big bonefish and got a big permit, and we got everything done for the photography, but it just started off so bad and just like ended so good, and and we found tailing bonefish at the end at the sunset too, which made it even better. So
that's awesome.
Wow, what a day!
Does sound like
what a day.
One of those days you want to just like relive, like Groundhog Day style. If you could just relive a day over and over, that sounds like a pretty good one.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I would like to cut out the agony of the first 4 hours.
Totally. Yeah.
You had to pay your due though. You had to suffer.
Yeah, totally. I love it. Okay, number 4, Mitch's Fishies 5 is, why do you fly fish? Like, what do you get out of fly fishing? Why do you keep going back out?
I like its simplicity a lot. I like it's complicated as it gets, but it's a rod, a boat, a little bit of litter material, and like a chicken feather on a hook. I really appreciate that. And I think that's probably it.
I like that. That's like, we've never really heard that answer before. I think a lot of people talk about fly fishing as like it's complicated, or it's like it's difficult or whatever else. But when you break it down, like a stick and some line and a feather with a hook, like, kind of is exactly what fly fishing is. It really is simple.
Yeah. That's
that's cool.
I started appreciating that when I was like, oh, do I got everything I needed? And I was like, I got a rod. Yeah. I guess it's got a fly on it. I guess we're good.
I guess we're good to go. I love it. That's cool. That's the first time we've heard that. Okay, my favorite question of Mitch's Fishies 5, and our last one is, what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly pattern, what would you be? Existing. Or maybe made up.
Oh my gosh. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. I guess it'd be like some kind of twitchy gurgler, just something that makes a lot of noise and, moves around a ton, I guess.
Nice. I like that. That's good. Twitchy gurgler.
Some people interpret the question as like, what's the fly I use most often? But really, we mean like, what, if you transformed into a fly, what would you be? So appreciate the answer.
Thanks.
I was like when people.
I love that.
When people like start like picking characteristics out of the fly and matching them to their characteristics. That's why I like that question. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah, like our friend Andy would be a San Juan there. I love that. That's my favorite, I think. It's very tall and great.
Our friend Chloe.
I love that.
A friend of ours, Chloe, like she works at the Yellowstone Angler in Montana, and like without flinching, she was like, "I'm a bitch creek," and I was like, "All right,
All right."
I was like, okay.
"What are you, Mitch? What's your fly?"
That's great.
I think I said I'd be like a little Adams, like a little fluffy Adams.
What about you, Aldo?
What was Aldo? What did you say again?
I don't know. My answer like changes every once in a while. Like I remember, our most recent episode on the Osable River, Brandon, our guest, asked me, and I said, "Well, I'm kind of like an Osable wolf because I'm like pretty hairy. I float pretty well, and I'm pretty obnoxious. But
Float pretty well.
but I don't know if I was a saltwater fly. Let's say if it was a saltwater fly. I think
I'd be a crab.
you'd
pattern
for sure be a crab
100%.
pattern, like with you just like moving sideways.
Yeah, just freaking out.
I think if I was a
love it.
saltwater fly, I'd be like a mantis shrimp or something. Just again, a lot of hair,
Nice.
lot of
Yeah.
like very bushy and yeah, slightly
love it.
obnoxious.
The gurgler, man, keep making noise because it's doing a
Yeah.
lot of good, and it's cool to see the work.
Nice one, Mitch.
Cool to see the work you're doing right now, and it's very respectable, and I'm super fucking jealous that you live on a sailboat in the Keys. Yeah.
I appreciate
Thanks for coming
it.
on the show, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now it's like shameless plug time. Like, where can people find the film? How can people contact you or get it? Are you listening to this? Do you live in Florida or do you travel to Florida often? Are you a Canadian snowbird? You want to get involved? How can people do that? The film is a Pathway 4 permit. I think I said a Pathway 2 permit earlier, so I'm just correcting myself. Pathway 4 permit. It's on YouTube. It'll be in our show notes. Ross is in the film a couple times, narrated by Flip Pallet, and some really beautiful cinematography as well. So you can see what we talked about. But yeah, Ross, how can people reach you if you want to be reached, or how can people get involved with Bonefish Tarpon?
Yeah. If you want to get involved with BTT, definitely check our website out at bonefishtarpontrust.org. We have an easy place to write us, contact us. If you want to reach out to me directly, my Instagram handle is madfishscientist. I'm pretty responsive on that.
Love it.
But yeah,
Follow!
yeah, I'm not looking for follows, but you just asked for something I answer.
Totally.
But just please look into us. We do good work, and we're really proud of what we do, and we make change.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Wicked. Thank you so much again for coming on the show, Ross.
Thank you.
Fucking hot right now.
Oh,
That was
because
great.
you have your air conditioning off?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'm really toasty right now. I got my AC off, and I got the window closed because the wind slams the door. But I do have the AC on in the other room. It's just when I'm in here, it doesn't matter. I'm hot. But Ross was super cool.
I'm
You got
just
your
stuck
AC
on
on.
this AC thing. I turned mine off for the same reason. I was like, I don't want it blowing.
Because of the
noise.
boo, the burr noise. Yeah, it's a little bit too loud on the old listener ears. But yeah, Ross is super dope. He's super cool, really cool. The work that they're doing is unreal.
I mean, yeah, I think the thing that stands out to me is like it actually turns into change.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know
mean,
that sounds crazy to say because it's like, why else would they be doing it? But a lot of people do a lot of research, and all that comes out of it is a bunch of data that never gets actioned upon, right? So it's pretty cool that, Florida, what is it, the FWC, was like, even before they had data, it was like, okay, we'll give you a catch and release permit zone, but get some data.
Yeah, exactly.
Just-
no, 100%.
Yeah, it's just kind of neat.
It's great that they're actually. I mean, it's really cool. The work that they're doing is amazing, and it's like I don't know, like just the idea of tagging, the idea I guess of Ross's job is really cool. Like I get excited like when I see a fish in the water. You know what I mean? So it's like he's going out and they're like finding schools of tarpon using sonar equipment and tagging fish and looking at the data. Like I think all that stuff is like all the things around fishing that we like. It's just so cool,
Yeah, you got to get down there. It's just so cool. Like, you land in Miami or wherever. Let's just say you land on the mainland, and then you drive to the Key. You're driving to this island chain.
Yeah.
And you're on a highway in the middle of the first thing you see after you get south of Miami is all of a sudden you're driving through Everglades National Park. So boom, already that's insane. Then you get out of Everglades National Park and you're on the Intercoastal Highway, and your Intercoastal Highway, well, whatever, the highway you're literally driving on the ocean. You got the Gulf of Mexico on one side and the Atlantic Ocean on the other, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you know, then it's like Key Largo and Isla Morada and Marathon, and you know, when you get to Isla Morada, that's really when, you know, fly fishiness takes over the Keys, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a cool place.
Yeah, the scenes, like, I mean, I've seen the pictures and videos, and I mean, the stuff you showed me. It's amazing.
Awesome.
We got to get down there.
You gotta get down there.
What's going on with us? Do we got any?
I was gonna say it's July 11th when we're recording this. This is coming out July 15th. I'm losing my mind. That's what's going on. What's going on? It's bass season, baby. We were just up in Georgian Bay catching. We were waiting. Speaking of wading flats,
Yeah.
Matt Martin took us to some of his little secret spots.
Yeah.
Wading some flats for bass, and you know, he wasn't expecting the carp to still be around, but they were there.
To still be around? Like he thought they'd be deeper or something right now?
Yeah, I guess they move off the flat.
They spawn kind of thing? Is that what it is?
You know, I didn't ask, but it's a water temperature thing. I guess
see.
I'm assuming it's like they.
Weird. I would have thought they'd be in the flats like all the time. I didn't knowing nothing about carp really, other than I've seen them in shallow water a lot.
In shallow, warmer water. Yeah, I maybe these ones are built different. Maybe
It's cool.
You know, maybe it's a podcast. I don't know.
The bass you guys were catching. I mean, is there going to be a day tripping around that video?
Oh yeah, buddy.
So
I might get working on it right now today.
Everybody check out our YouTube because there may or may not be a day tripping up about this trip because the bass you guys were catching were awesome. It was like you're fishing salt water almost, like the flats. It's so cool.
I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, you know, people who don't know, Georgian Bay is a big, huge swath of water in Lake Huron. And a lot of it is limestone bottom, so the water is quite clear. And, you know, if you're not over brown sand, you know, you're usually over limestone, so the water's like, the bottom's really light colored. So you can see these bass coming a mile away. Yeah. And the bass are up still on these flats in a post-spawn scenario. They've spawned. They're still kind of not behaving like they spawned, but they're still like sort of just hanging around where their nests were. Juveniles are gone. And they're eating gobies. They're just smoking gobies. Yeah. And whatever else comes by. But they're mainly there. The carp are actually eating the gobies too. So that all these fish are just effing up gobies. And then this other spot we went to was like, dude, so many gar.
Yeah. I mean, like, Matt caught a nice one.
We're just standing in the water, like, you know, shin deep.
Yeah.
And it's just like all these gars just swimming by me. Just like, even that was cool. I'm like, I don't even need to catch one. I'm like, there's this like 5-foot fish that's from like, that looks like older than time. Like they're so prehistoric. Cool. And then Matt actually landed one. Because Matt's like, okay, well, like out of the 100 you see, like 10 eat. And then out of the 10 that eat, one stays buttoned up because their snout is like bone. Yeah. Right? So
as if he actually got one and a nice one.
And with the cameras around, like, I mean, usually with like the cameras are the biggest jinx on earth, right? So,
a surprise. It's cool.
So when he landed, I was like, fucking right.
Yeah, it's an awesome photo, like him with this giant gar, you know, like they're such
a
cool fish.
It was, Adis was like, had to keep walking away because like stepping back because it wouldn't fit in the frame. Long. It was just so long. Yeah. But that was really cool. And Mitch, you finally got the kayak fully operational.
Oh,
right?
Baby, did I ever. I got my Wilderness Systems Recon 120, and I've taken bass fishing on the fly to a militaristic SWAT team-esque, the Recon 120. No, it's a sweet boat. It's like, like it looks like tactical as hell because I've got like a gray paddle vest that looks like a tactical vest.
Yeah,
and the
boat's
gray, and you
that
know,
pic
like
you and your brother you sent me. I was like, Jesus Christ! I thought your brother was wearing his brother's OPP, and I thought he was wearing his bulletproof vest.
No, it's like we're so tactical looking, but the boats are awesome. They're like so stable. They're 40 inches wide. It's basically a John boat.
Can you stand?
Oh my God, yeah. You can it's like a floating dock. It's crazy. Like it's very stable, but the Wilderness Systems hull, like they did a really good job. It's not a hard. Like I was like kind of like this is gonna be a bitch to paddle. It's pretty good. Like it's not super fast, you know, but it's like kind of like canoe speed, you know. Like it's like it's not. You can't go wrong with that. Because it's so wide, you're just like moving like quite a boat, but it's awesome. We don't have the pedal drive. The pedal drive is worth more than the boat, which is weird to me. Don't know how that works, but so just have the paddle system. Yeah, we went fishing on up at like where our family cottage is, and caught a ton of largies, and some
That's
sunnies
awesome.
and perch and everything else, and yeah, super fun, super fun. So I'm definitely going to be doing that again, and well, we're going to be heading up there in a couple weeks, so me and you will go out on those kayaks, and we'll have a ball.
Yeah, we got the kayaks, we got float tubes. Like we have
Paddle boards.
We now have an armada at your
Yeah.
cottage, stored at your cottage.
We will just descend on the island at night and try to catch some big smallies.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Under the pale moonlight.
Oh yeah, the moon shall bring up an acre of bass. I still have to read that book, but
What?
there's a book about striped bass that one of our guests during the F3T mentioned, and I thought it was the coolest title for a book. The moon brought up an acre of bass. I need to read it still.
An acre of bass, imagine.
I know, yeah, like all about the. I mean, that's a whole other thing. We should try to get that author on the show. I mean, let's check that out.
But yeah, it's bass season. We're loving it. It's hot
season's here.
outside. You know, leave the trout alone.
Yeah.
It's such a short window if you live in small. Jesus Christ. If you live in southern Ontario, you know, it's like
Small
the season
Ontario.
opens. Season opens at the end of June,
Yeah.
and once the water starts cooling down September, you know, that's pretty much it.
Spring,
So,
summer,
like-
spring, summer just go too fast, you know. Like trout is just like, and then it's like bass,
And then
is just
bass is like
like, and then you're just like steelhead
for 8 months.
forever. Yeah. But yeah, let's get out there and enjoy it. That's what I
mean,
We'll
like-
go fish it soon.
You can either be bummed that you can't fish for trout, or you can fish for the most fun fish on earth, which is the smallmouth
Oh yeah.
bass.
Oh yeah. Smallies, pike, whatever. It's so much.
Oh,
good
sorry, you don't like
fun.
Oh, I'm sorry, you don't like fun?
Sorry, you're anti-fun now.
Sorry,
Internet.
do you not like fun?
Like,
A box of pop. Here's bass fishing. You get a box.
yeah.
You put 4 flies in it. Put a popper. You put a woolly bugger. You put like a clouser and a leech, or like a crayfish.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's your day.
Yeah. Throw a PB&J sandwich in your wader pocket.
Or your kayak
Get your favorite ball cap on.
in
Get
your
the heck down
kayak.
to the water, and you can have a fun day under the sun. Fun in the sun. Don't forget sunscreen. It's very important.
You're in your bathing suit.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
wet
that's
wading.
bass season. That's what's happening with us. But yeah, keep an eye out for, you know, we had a busy spring, Mitchie.
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff to edit, but
my
keep
God.
your eyes peeled to our YouTube channel, because we've got like stuff from the Bahamas round 2. We've got stuff from our day with Matt
Last
Martin.
season.
We've got stuff from last season coming out. Yeah, we're it's going to be a midsummer madness on our YouTube channel
Get ready. We're dropping every video we've ever made.
at the same time. That's
Yeah, there's a
sound YouTube advice, right? You release 20 videos in the same day.
Yeah, exactly. They all get 3 views. But you know what? They're done. They're done. But, you know, thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Thank you, Ross, for coming on the show. Check out A Pathway for Permit in our show notes. And, of course, you can find it at the link that Ross explained. But thank you for listening. And, well,
Yeah, and I'll just add, you know, if you want to learn, bonefishtarpontrust.org
yeah.
is where you can learn a lot about the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. Yeah, thanks, Mitch. Thanks, Ross.
Thanks, Aldo. Thanks, Ross.
Thanks, Costa.
everybody.
Thanks, Hannah over at Costa
Yes.
for hooking us up with this awesome interview. Because
So we got to have on the show. We got to have Hannah on the show, too.
yeah,
That'd be
big
awesome.
time.
Yeah.
Maybe if we finally go down to Boston, do
Hey,
some
that'd be
striper
sweet.
fishing
Do a little live show. Yeah, that'd be
with
great.
Hannah and Joe. Although I don't think Hannah lives in Boston, but still, she could come.
We'll have to fire in. Everybody, let's go to Boston. And everybody at home listening, you'll come to Boston too, and we'll have a good time. And thank you so much for listening to the show, and take care.
Comb your hair.